Therapy Geeks, a podcast by Luke McGibbon and Louise Taylor.
Welcome.
And
we're back.
We are back. Happy
Coast
New
to
Year.
coast, the hosts with the most. I wanted to feel kind of radio-y today. Give it that vibe, you know.
Oh, definitely. Happy February.
Happy February. I think here it's been just over a year since we started this.
Yeah.
And this is our 8th, 7th?
Oh, who knows?
It's a modest amount of podcasts, but a fine amount of podcasts indeed. 8 hours of us. You could listen to that in a row if you wanted. That would be your day's work.
A marathon.
A marathon of us forever. People who love us couldn't take us for that long, probably.
Yes.
I don't know if my girlfriend could take me for that long. It's just too much of me.
Oh well, what was it? I love talking about the history of the name.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Yes.
Go on then.
Well, it was a short history.
It's a pretty short.
First of all, when we were brainstorming, it was like when the first one we called ourselves Therapy Twerps after we had selected to, reluctantly.
Yeah, we were originally idea was Therapy Twats, which I loved, but I think we came to an agreement that I think
we're ahead of our time.
Yeah, that's the nicest way of putting it. Just that. You know, it could be seen as a little vulgar for some of the stuff here among our profession. But you know, that's how we got to where we are today. It's the rich history of our name. Yeah,
Therapy Geeks won.
Yeah, because therapy twerps. It was like I think we were trying to have our cake and eat it there, because we still wanted to be twats.
And we will be forever.
But I think that the twerps just didn't have a natural feel to the word. Is
no.
That, do you not think?
Feel to the theme, feel to the genre.
And that was, I guess that was a mistake that we made. Speaking of mistakes.
Oh, speaking of mistakes.
That sounds like I'm about to say something really insulting about you as well. Speaking of mistakes, Louise. Hey, you.
Meet you.
No, just our decided theme of this episode was going to be mistakes. So we're going to have a chickadee chat about mistakes, the concept, and quite a broad topic, but I feel like a rich one indeed.
Love it.
Yeah,
I think it's a great topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of what people come to therapy for is mistakes
or things they perceive to have been mistakes,
or perhaps they feel themselves like a mistake. Here's a statistic. I'm not entirely sure if this is true, because I think the source I read it in was fairly dubious, but I think it's pretty interesting, right? That there apparently, Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
So Roe v. Wade was this big, massive court case in America where... Sorry, you just said yes, and I'm like, I'll explain it anyway. I'll explain it for our listeners if they don't know, if they're not familiar. But it's a big court case that happened in America, and the result of which was that abortion was legalized, or semi-legalized, I'm not sure. And I think it's contested even to this day, but there was a documented drop in crime 17 years after Roe v. Wade that no one could really explain until someone sort of came up with that connection that, a lot of people who would have been coming of age, were not. And it says to me that maybe, crime and ill mental health, quite a lot of it comes from feeling like you're a mistake, from being maybe put up for adoption or just being raised in a family that didn't expect you. If handled improperly, it can really lead to antisocial behaviour.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
But then I would connect a lot of childhood trauma to crime and things like that there.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you don't recover from trauma,
it
can be very problematic. But that's why, I love counselling. I think healing's so important, and I think resilience is so important. But I was also looking up crime rates too, and I think this may be a dubious link, but I'm going for it anyway.
I've already done a pretty dubious link there, talking about abortion. I'm not...
Oh, I've got to build on that.
Okay.
Right,
Go
because
for it.
about mistakes. So one of the crime statistics that I was looking at that was on the increase is sexual assault,
Really?
sexual offences, and things like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but they were significantly high, and I also know that they're quite high amongst a lot of the student population, allegations and things like that.
Right.
Now, but I link that a lot of that because I did my dissertation and my master's on this. It was called, God, I'm going for the
No, go for it.
light,
Yeah.
the fluffy subjects. It's called rape and epistemology.
You speak great fun at parties.
So what I was doing, I was kind of researching like what we know about the topic, trying to take into consideration the lack of conviction rates, which I think is because of the very private nature. But also I account that to lack of sex education. Lack of education, lack of proper role modeling in the media, in the film industry, in gaming industry, about what consensual, respectful relationships look like.
So true, and absolutely, like particularly consent. Consent is the big one, and there's so many resources now and so many things coming out that just. I think there's a great one about tea. I think it wasn't there. There was a great one where it was like. Someone doesn't ask for a cup of tea, don't get them a cup of tea. I wouldn't do it justice to describe it. Just Google explaining consent with tea.
Yes.
Lovely little thing there. But it's one of those things where you go, are sexual crimes on the rise, or are people just becoming more aware of what a sexual crime is because of, publicized cases and increased awareness?
But you look at areas where it's rife. So university campuses, things like that there. So coming straight out of the home environment, freedom, you add a lot of alcohol, you add a lack of awareness, you add
hormones, self-esteem, all the stuff that makes it kind of hard to be a teenager in the first place.
Yeah, and you also add the fact, like, what is sexy? Like, is it sexy to be chaste? Is it sexy to be... Like, people don't actually...
And I think people find that... Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, go for it.
I think that maybe people find it hard to tell the difference sometimes between a sort of dominant sexual character and an aggressive sexual character. Well, for some, the line can be quite thin. But, it's, and it leads to some pretty shitty behaviour.
And gender stereotypes.
Yeah. And when you see, like, there's a whole, anyone who's familiar with Reddit, there's like a whole subreddit, a whole part of the site called Creepy PMs, right? Which shows you like, and of course, like it's all male to female. There's there's not many like female to male, but it's like this horrible behavior where it's like, unsolicited dick pics, of course. That's the classic one, which I had never thought, like, whenever someone does that, I go, has that worked for you ever? Because it feels like you're trying to sell a car by showing someone a picture of a tire. It's not quite
sell a car.
Because to me, right, if you, and I know this isn't actually kosher to just flip the tables around and go, well, that's what it's like if it was the other way around. But if someone were to send me a picture of a single breast, I wouldn't go, oh, great, get into bed. Like, even if it was the best breast in the world, that it just doesn't. I just can't imagine a world where unsolicited, or even often a solicited dick pic is that successful. Maybe I'm just getting old. I
don't have any idea. I'm very grateful, and this is not an invitation, but I've never received any. So I like to keep it that way. But it's just like I don't know. Maybe, but so that would be a mistake. But is it a mistake? So the definition.
Oh yes, we've got it.
Like my big dictionary.
Yes, we've come with little resources.
A thing which is not correct. An error of judgment. So with the prevalence of unsolicited penile pictures, right?
Yeah.
Would that be considered? I would consider them errors of judgment, but the pure numbers of times it's happening, it seems to become normalized. Yeah,
well, I think what's happened is it's sort of covertly become normalized, and in the last number of years, and now, thankfully, I mean, I don't know what I can't make an accurate guess as to what the world thinks, but it does seem to me that resistance to unsolicited dick pics is becoming normalized, or maybe making fun of unsolicited dick pics, which is probably an effective way of stopping them, unless they're into that, and that can happen too. That's why they tell you don't laugh at a flasher as well, because they, I think some people go, if someone flashes you in the street, which is basically the equivalent of an unsolicited dick pic in real life anyway.
Yes.
I know some people who go, if someone did that to me, I'd just laugh at them and embarrass them. But like some people like that, like the correct thing to do if someone flashes you is just walk on.
Yes.
Don't even look. Like, which it's probably pretty infuriating to the victim of a flashing to go, well, I can't do anything about this. But by not doing anything, you're depriving them of whatever kick they're after. Whether it's anger or shock or laughter or humiliation or whatever it is they're into.
I think it's just a ridiculous amount of emphasis on an appendage.
Yeah. What's so special about your dick that you think
Who cares?
you think everyone has to say it? I would say it's an error of judgment. I would say that a lot of people who send them don't think it's an error of judgment.
But also,
the people who receive it, and really that's who matters.
well, how would you consensually send?
Well, I guess.
Would you like a picture of?
Really, in my opinion, it's down to the receiver to ask you.
Yes, that's what I mean. Would you like to receive a picture of this?
Yeah,
that would be consent.
Well,
and
that's
then they
the sender asking for consent, which I just can't imagine how the conversation goes there.
There, I see. This is great.
This is the thing I saw on the subreddit of Creepy PMs, that often the conversation doesn't go there. It's dragged there by the send. They go, I'm going to send you this now.
Which goes into power dynamics.
Yeah, I guess it does, doesn't it? Yeah, that's...
Because if there's inequality, and there's oppression, and there's power dynamics, does consensual, can it even come into it?
No, absolutely. I guess so. It's kind of just like... It is all about power in that case. It's going, you have to look at this now. Look at this. Look at this thing, and it's that's just an assault, isn't it?
But then there's pressure the other way. Can you send me a nude? Maybe new relationships, and that's something that's very, very, and that's in the work I was doing when the schools. I was saying to the young people, this was not an issue for me.
Yeah.
This was not something that I would have had to even consider.
Yeah.
So if you're in a new relationship and they're like, oh well, such and such, his girlfriend sends him pictures.
Yeah. Well, such and such can do that if they want. It's not fucking smart, but...
Yes, but that's empowerment. And as a teenager, I certainly wasn't empowered. I was still developing and growing. I was going through that. I wouldn't have considered... I would possibly, by some people, consider it assertive, but I don't think I was particularly. I was still finding my way.
Yeah, absolutely. And like... back when I was a child, if you wanted, or a teenager, if you wanted to send someone a nude pic, you'd have to get it sketched in the oil lamp and the warm light of the cavern.
Right, you'd have to put it on a cave wall.
And then maybe a historian years later, a descendant of the person you're sending it to, they would see the drawing of your dick. But no, I'm only 28. But like you're saying, it wasn't really an issue for me whenever I was younger, because this is stupid, but people had camera phones, but it was bad quality. No, and maybe it just didn't, or maybe it didn't occur to them. But if it did, you wouldn't have wanted to send that. You would have go, well, there's a pink blur for you. It's not that's not erotic. That's not enticing. It is such a. It's such a pressure that's on young people to do this thing that I just don't think it should ever really be asked of someone, because when someone has a picture of you, they've got that for life, really, if they want it.
Well, this is sorry.
Just have that, personally, if I've ever been in a relationship and someone's given me a picture, whenever that relationship's ended, I kind of make a big deal of deleting it and telling the person I'm going to delete it, because I think you just can't assume. You
are such a gift.
Hi.
That's just so conscious. It's just such...
That's the thing people do.
Well, but that's just thoughtful.
Aye.
That's just integrity. Sullivan once said, sorry, Sullivan, you're not
This is
getting
all
it.
guy.
That's like integrity. That's just decency. That's doing the right thing. Because what comes up a lot too is revenge stuff after
yeah,
relationships end.
Yeah.
And that's like where they're sent out or they're sent to different people. But like that, what you've done is just, that's just respect. Even when the relationship's over, I am going to respect you.
Yeah, I think and that's pretty hard with the ending of a relationship, because I think one of the common defenses at the end of a relationship is vilification, isn't it? Like, it's to go, well, they were mean, they were evil, so fuck that guy, I'm gonna talk shit about him, or fuck that bitch, I'm gonna put pictures up, of them, and like horrible shit.
Yes.
But, yeah, I feel like we're getting away from mistakes here.
But I'm going to do one of the quotes, but I really like that, even when relationships end, even that's another thing about mistakes in relationships, right? When you start, like, even if it's ended really bad, there are things that you can learn from it.
Oh yeah, at all times, definitely. Like,
it's like it's hard, I think, for people, particularly if it's been highly abusive and it's been highly traumatic, to think of it in terms of not in terms of I made a huge mistake. What the hell did I do? I spent my life, or I invested so much time and energy with this person. But that, I think, you can see for yourself. This is a quote I really... I use that Nelson Mandela one?
Yeah, it was good.
I never lose. I either win or learn. So I don't know if we've used that again in the podcast, nice. But I would have shared that. So it's like, even if you've had a really difficult, horrible time, you perceive things as mistakes, you can always learn from them.
Yeah. I think was something you were saying a minute ago really rung true for me, which is that to me, I think one of the big challenges after the end of a relationship is you go, what was true? And I don't mean just in the traditional sense, like, were they telling fibs about this? But I mean, like, internally. So I've been in actually quite a number of relationships. I'm probably what some would call like a serial monogamist, which I think so. The common perception is, they're afraid of being single. I love being single, but I just if I like someone, I don't faff around, and I don't end a potential relationship because I feel like I should be single. That seems arbitrary. If I like being around someone, I'll just be around them. So I end up in a lot of relationships. But at one of the last relationships I was in, when it ended, I was struck by how little I was impacted, and I remember thinking, well, all those things I must have felt must have just been a show of some sort. And you go, how much of that feeling was true, and how much of it was me going, oh, love, it's so great. You know what I mean? And
yes.
Like, to be honest, the relationship I'm in right now is the best relationship I've ever been in. But I'm embarrassed to tell people that now, because I know I've said that about other relationships that, looking back, weren't actually that great. So
yes, but they were the best at that time.
Well, yeah, and that much is true. What's true is I believed that at the time. But is it true that I felt all this amazing stuff, that I was saying I was feeling? Or was it just that I was sort of caught up in a vibe? Like, this is probably the longest relationship I've been in now since I was 16. I think I was with someone for 4 years when I was 16, which it doesn't really count because, you're about 4 different people in that time. Here, the dogs have gotten in.
They're broken in.
Okay, may as well let them in. Here. How do you know? We'll edit this out, shall we? Or we'll keep it in?
Do you want me to put them in here? You two.
No, sure, they're grand, aren't they?
We'll see how we get on.
Yeah, they're probably making less noise out here, aren't they? Yeah, well, we'll see if this is a mistake or not.
Oh dear.
But yeah, just sort of going, what was true? And like, have I been convincing myself that this one feeling was love in about 3 different relationships, when actually it was just nice,
Possibly when you were growing as a person and you were becoming better, you feeling better about yourself, you attracted relationships that were better for you.
Yeah.
So you just might have been...
Well, I think, like, every time you grow or change, and you do grow and change, you never stop. You're kind of like a different person.
Yeah.
So, and particularly when you're a teenager, like, every year you're kind of a different person. So yeah, and like, that's kind of why some relationships I think can end quite naturally, because you go, like this person's different and I'm different. You know, we're not quite what each other needs anymore. Which is why I'm always worried about people who get married to childhood sweethearts. I go, in my head, are you sure? Like, not because of the traditional reason, which is I think everyone goes, oh, sure, you need to ride a whole bunch of people before you know what actual riding is like. More, I think that's what people think. I do think that's what people think. But I think actually it's more so that, like, are you the same person you were when you were 16? I don't think you are. Like,
no.
Are you sure you should still be going out with this person who you thought was great when you were 16? Because, you know, maybe there's somebody better for you now. I don't know, but
that would be like, it's just right. So Steph and I think it might be 17 years we've been together in May. But I suppose one of the reasons our relationship is working is because we grow together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We change together, not always at the same rate, which can be incredibly frustrating and difficult. But then it's like, how important is the relationship to you?
Yeah.
How important is the other person to you? Like, it's not like I love love is not imprisonment. Love is not imprisonment. It's freedom.
Yes.
So it's like just allowing yourselves to be two individuals who happen to be in a relationship together.
Yeah. And if you, like, I guess sometimes you might not like the way another person is changing as well. And
No.
Well, recognize it in yourself and recognize it in them as potentially the direction they need to go in or whatever. And then there's the traditional choice, I think, when you're in a relationship, it's either accept, compromise, or leave.
Yes. Well, there's more freedom now. You see, that's it. With the times changing. Yeah. Whereas decades ago, it's like you got married, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
that's
and
it.
You're stuck with them.
You picked them at the age of 20. You're done.
There's plenty of very healthy relationships I know from people who are like childhood sweethearts as well.
Yes.
And I think it's because, like you say, they choose to grow together. And they paid attention to each other and they communicated. And that's just kind of what ensures that, like, there's that core of you that stays the same.
Yes.
And it's known and loved by the other person. That's probably a successful, very long-term relationship. Yeah, I know a few people like that, definitely.
So you see, so in thinking of relationships or past relationships as mistakes, like, I don't know if it's going to be very healthy.
Yeah.
Helpful, maybe it would be better.
Picking up the dog.
Juno is very happy with Luke.
Yeah,
like,
having a wee sniff of me.
They like it when you come around, Luke.
I like seeing them. Yeah, sorry. So, mistakes. I've got a load of things written down here. I thought about mistakes in therapy, getting back to therapy.
Yes.
What about you? What do you got? What do you got for me?
Well, what was I saying before we started? Because before we start the podcast, often we'll have a wee chat, like just a wee chat to think, right, what are we going to cover? But we don't we don't plan it out too much. But what was I saying about mistakes I've made? Like, yes, I have made, and I will continue to make, because I'm a human being, and mistakes are my greatest teachers. And I do try my best, but I don't always get it right, and I don't actually believe in perfectionism. But yes, there was a client early on, I think, in the GP practice whenever I was training, and a young man, and there were 2 sessions, and I completely understood why he didn't come back.
Where's that?
Because I think I was too, I think I was too, right, let's sort this out.
Yeah.
At that stage. Now, that was very early in my training. Let's sort this out. You know, kind of, okay, what's the problem? What can we do?
Yeah.
And it was a bit too, maybe, like, it just wasn't particularly helpful.
Yeah.
I thought if I was to do it again, I would definitely be a lot more client-centered. But because of the initial problem he came with, it just seemed, I just think I was a bit shit.
Okay, and yeah, we've definitely all been a bit shit, haven't we, at times with clients. What about personal therapy, when you're getting therapized yourself?
Therapized?
Yeah. Are there mistakes on your part in that?
When I'm getting therapized? I haven't been therapized for a while, but supervision.
Yeah, really,
yeah. When was the last time? Oh, mistakes I've made in therapy. I don't know. Can you, as a client, make mistakes in therapy?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think I've made some mistakes in therapy as a client. Definitely, yeah. I think that what I wrote down was like expectations and goals. That's where I've made mistakes. So I've only ever had the one personal therapist, and personally, I do think that it was constructive. I don't think it's. I don't think that relationship's constructive anymore. I haven't seen them for about maybe a year now. I think it's because my expectations and goals have kind of changed, and there's even times. I think I told you about this maybe in the first podcast, but there was a time when I was looking for like a Gestalt therapist because I think I wanted I wanted a therapist who would go, you dickhead, what are you doing? And that's obviously not what Gestalt is, but. I think I wanted a therapist to tell me off. So I think it's always the sort of good to examine your expectations and goals when you go into therapy. Maybe share them even. Like, I feel like if I'd gone to my therapist and said, I kind of just want to be told off. I want to be told I'm a bad person. Like, that probably would have just been explored. That would have been good to explore rather than just give me what I want.
Yes.
And just go, you dickhead or whatever. But I think my expectations and goals change because sometimes you go in and you're like, well, I want to, like, do you want to feel better? Do you want to know more about yourself? Do you want goals and directions? Do you want exercises? Do you have a thing you want to get rid of, like physically or mentally? Things like that. Like, what is the uncomfortable feeling that's brought you there? Like, this sort of self-examination, it's good to have from coming to therapy.
I love this. I wouldn't consider that a mistake.
Well, I think it was it was a mistake in having certain expectations and not sharing them.
But you had an awareness. You didn't know what therapy was, so you arrived at therapy.
I did. Well,
and you didn't actually. You're aware. You had no.
I think I did. I think I had an awareness of what therapy was, but I didn't have I think I had no awareness of what that therapy was going to be, because obviously therapy with each person is different, and and I think it probably would have been constructive of me to share it. Like, this is what I feel like I need right now, and then to sort of look at that instead of just obviously talking around what I actually wanted. It's really just the equivalent of games playing in a couple, like not actually saying what you want and sort of expecting them to suss it out. And I think that I can see that I've made that mistake.
I've just thought of a mistake.
Okay.
The first counsellor I had in my early 20s, who I remember, I told you about this before, I didn't want to see, he was so nice, but I didn't want to see a counsellor anymore. I didn't want to see it. It wasn't I just was like, no, I don't want this anymore. Yeah. It wasn't like his fault. It wasn't like because he was a bad counsellor or anything. I just didn't want to do it. So I'd said I couldn't afford it.
Right, honesty. That's a mistake you can make.
This is a mistake. But then he said, okay, I'll do it for free. And I was like, oh,
you can't escape.
So that was a mistake because I didn't assert myself. Yeah. I didn't.
Just like the dog there now. Assertness. If you can hear the growling, audience members, I think we're going to release them. Yeah. Okay.
So I think not being honest.
Totally, yeah. That's probably the most common mistake you can make as a client is, and it's, not to say it's your fault if therapy's not working, but like sharing absolutely everything. I mean, that's the place for it. And if it's rejected, then maybe that's a bad therapist, but I don't know. It depends on the context. But yeah, I know exactly. You mean like the first counsellor I had was when I was maybe 20. Okay, I have had more than one counsellor now to think about it. I got some brief counselling maybe in my early 20s because I was working a horrible job and I was in quite a low place, and I had 6 sessions with this guy, and I've yammered about him before because he was the guy who was typing on his laptop when he should have been listening, and he answered his phone once in session and held up a finger and all that. I'm pretty sure I've probably spoken about him here before because, I mean, that's some fucking big mistakes there. But I was making a big mistake by not going, that's shit. What you've done makes me feel like you're not paying attention or that this doesn't matter to you. And the way that he spoke sort of made me feel like it was my fault. And this guy teaches, taught counselling. Like, there's no adults in any profession really.
Has anything? My phone's gone off in a session.
Oh no!
And I
thought you meant right now. I thought you meant right now.
No. I mean, like, it's gone off in a session where I'd forgotten I hadn't. Like,
Yeah.
And I felt really, and I said, I am so
yeah.
sorry, because distractions are.
Yeah.
They just break the flow.
Absolutely. And like, that actually happened to me about a month ago, and I think I apologized so much that the client was like, why are you taking this so seriously? But like, I think it's important that you do. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I always have it off or in a different room, and the one day I leave it in my pocket, somebody rings in the middle of a session, I'm just going to hang up. And that's to me it's like, well, the damage is done, but the client doesn't notice or care. But to me, it's like, not only have I broken the flow,
yes,
but I feel like there's something sanctimonious a little bit about me going, look, I'm gonna hang us up in front of you just so you know I care. It's a bit,
yes.
it felt a bit like I was going, look how great I am.
Well, that was it, because for me, I was like, I'm really, really sorry, because this is your time, and something from me has
totally, and yeah, absolutely. That was
a mistake.
Yeah,
I hadn't turned off my phone. Mistakes. Do sometimes I'm not very good with the time boundaries. Now, is that a mistake, or what's that? Like, that it depends on who you're talking to, because some of the tutors, some of the therapists would say, be on it, the boundaries. And I do love boundaries, but I'm also like, I respect you, and if you're in a flow.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a tough one for me. This might be definitely probably an area for development.
Jury's out.
Yeah, but what is it? It's like this. It doesn't, like, the sessions, I would never go under.
Yeah.
Unless they want to leave early.
Uh-huh.
But the odd time might go over.
I think, like you're saying, I think it really does depend, because obviously boundaries are important, and if someone's consistently pushing it out, you have to sort of look at, is there a power dynamic thing going on here? Is there, maybe they're pushing it because they're actually just kind of lonely and they want to chat for longer?
No, see, I wouldn't, but see, with the time, like, there have been times where clients have gone, oh my God, Louise, I didn't realise the time. You should have stopped me.
Yeah, and like, sometimes that happens too, that it's just an honest mistake. Well, there we go again. An keyword. Honest
mistake.
Yeah, that can happen. And it does happen a lot.
Yeah.
I think the only time it really is seen, the only time I would see it as a mistake on my part as a therapist is if it's consistent and it's maybe a power dynamic that's being ignored, or a loneliness issue that's not being ignored, or something else.
Yes, power dynamics, or like behavior, like it's
or if it comes at the expense of another client. That's,
Well, then I would be a bit more, if I've got them back to back, I would have been a bit more on it. It would have been a distraction for me, particularly in the practice, where, like, as in the practice I was at, because you had to fit them all in.
Yeah.
Because you were going for your hours, you're trying to complete your training, all that there. So it would have been on. Whereas private practice, I would spread them out.
Yeah.
I don't actually see too many clients. I don't think it's healthy. Because I'm doing a PhD, I'm balancing home education PhD.
Yeah.
So I'd have a nice wee stream of clients and spread them out.
Yeah.
I'm not practicing the way I was doing when I was trying to get
back to back and squeezing it all in. Like,
yes.
I know what you mean. Like, sometimes it can be like, oh, give me 5 minutes just to recover between, and sometimes you don't always have it in, like, agencies and things like that. The place I'm counselling in has like a walk-in system, so like you might have a blank spot in your schedule, but someone might just come in, and someone came in 10 minutes before I had another client, and there was no other counsellors available in the building, and my other client came early, like around about 2 minutes into this session with the other person, so I had to come out and be like, I'm so sorry, like, do you mind if I, just for like 20 minutes with this person? And luckily this client was like really, really amenable to it and things like that. But, like, if they hadn't been, that would have been a mistake for me to see that crisis client at all. I should have said, come back in an hour. Like, I know they wouldn't have been able to come back in an hour because I had actually checked that. But, like, ethically, it's a real ethical shitstorm there. You go,
yes,
like, do I send away this person who's obviously on the brink because they just keep walked in without a scheduled appointment?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yes.
Like,
off the street, or do I, do I see this person but at the expense of another client?
And then there's also the thing like confidentiality of clients.
Yeah.
So I never want my clients to see each other.
Yeah, I didn't.
Do you see what I mean? So you don't want them, because then that's it's
a whole different kettle of fish about, clients go, do you have a favorite, or what does that one talk about, or what sort of stuff do you hear? And then the focus becomes kind of about you as a counsellor, when it shouldn't really be about you as a counsellor. And I'm happy to answer small questions, but if someone says, "Oh, how many people do you see a day?" I would say, I wouldn't say who, or age groups or genders or whatever, but it's like things like that. But to me, the decision process for that was with the situation with the crisis client and my actual client was, if I'm choosing to spend 20 minutes with this crisis client at the expense of my other client, that is communicating to that client that their time isn't that important to me. So if I can communicate to them that their time is important to me and still do this, then to me that's the greatest amount of good that's effective.
Yeah, well, it's just respect. It's being like, this is happening, and honesty.
Yeah, complete honesty. Yeah, absolutely. I've found that especially when you're cancelling on someone, nothing feels better than just saying, I just don't have the energy, I don't want to do that, rather than the traffic,
yeah. But you kind of get a gist of somebody's. See if somebody's cancelling me and they feel the reason.
Not client, by the way. I just meant a friend.
It's like, or if somebody cancels me, I don't actually mind.
Yeah.
I'm just like, life happens, things happen, that's all right. Flexibility, because if I want, I cancel sometimes. So if I want it, I have to give it. So that flexibility and that kind of, that's fine. I
think, I have a real sore spot for friends who argue against you cancelling on something. I think that's shitty friendship. I think maybe you make one protestation, that's it. If you make two, that's it. If you say once, come on, to me that's okay. But if they go, no, I can't, and they keep going, oh, come on, and they're like, oh, why can't you come? Oh, that's a stupid reason, all that.
I used to get that a lot.
That's not a good friend. That's not friendship, really.
Yes, but but then you could also argue that they really want to see you. But I did used to get that. I don't get it so much now.
Yeah.
But I did used to get that maybe in my late 30s, and it was just more about going out.
Yeah.
It was about social gatherings, because they wanted groups, they wanted crowds, they wanted people.
Yeah.
Kind of your mate. But I don't think it's I don't think they're being unkind or anything. I think they just really want you out, but they are trying to manipulate you into doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
But we all want what we want. They want a bit of the look. Out in a night out.
Well, it doesn't happen so much these days.
Oh, dear.
Nobody wants the look now. A bit of the look. They don't want the whole thing. That's too much.
Do you know, I've just thought about, I don't know, the dogs are just like, he just wants and then one side.
Some podcasts have sort of cafe noise in the background. We have kind of farmyard.
We've 16-year-old dog barking.
Yeah.
Going, what are you doing? You're ignoring me. But I want to talk about this. I'm not going to go into the specifics of it, but there was a dilemma.
Oh.
An ethical dilemma when I was training. Okay. And I have to say, it was probably the most stressful thing that happened during my training.
Okay.
And it was so ethics, when you're a counsellor, what you come to learn, it's so important, but there's also a hell of a lot of grey areas.
Yeah.
So when you're a student counsellor, you're the only one in the room and you're still learning. And I'm always learning. But something happened with a client where I was like, I have no idea what to do here. I think I have to breach confidentiality, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
It was a grey area.
And I'm assuming they didn't want you to break confidentiality.
No.
That's always a toughie as well.
It's it was a minefield. So it was horrible, because I'll tell you, I went to my supervisor. Mm-hmm. My supervisor was like, yes, got out a graph. The supervisor at the time, right, got out a graph, got these documents out, was
Nice.
like, look at, because he wasn't entirely sure. But by looking at the document and stuff, but I was like, they don't want me to. They don't want me to do this, and I feel really uncomfortable doing this, but I'm telling you what was said. It was exploitation of some kind I was worried about.
Yeah.
But the idea was, were they considered vulnerable?
Aye.
Right? So this is where it was just a minefield. So I went to the supervisor. Yes. Went to the tutor. No.
Okay.
So the supervisor and the tutor weren't in agreement. Went to the placement provider. So they were like, no.
Now we've
So
got
at
a
that
vote.
point, I had 2 no's, 1 yes. The next week, the tutor came back and went, yes. So it changed. And I was just absolutely like, I was like,
What about you, deep down?
I was like, no.
No?
I don't think because I'm training, I don't think this is right.
Yeah.
Because the client had said, if you do this, I will say you're lying. Basically.
Wow. Okay.
Basically, not lying, but I won't support you.
Okay.
So I was like, but I needed to, at that point, share the ethical, because like with my supervisor, because I was in training, I still hadn't qualified.
Yeah.
But it was the placement supervisor, it was the placement provider who said no.
Okay.
But my supervisor wasn't happy.
Well,
It was awful.
your supervisor ain't you at the end of the day.
Yes, but whenever you've got your supervisor is supervising you, but also the placement provider is offering you the placement.
Yeah.
And the placement was brilliant. Like
Yeah.
they treated me very well. But it was just, and that's where I was like, the mistakes, like it was just awful. And like, who was right? Because
Yeah.
there were so many different opinions.
Well, in therapy today, there's this magazine they send out to everyone on the BACP every month. It's like it's very much a doctor's waiting room kind of magazine, like. But therapy today have a section in every month, which is like ethical dilemmas, and people send in what they do, and everyone's got so many different things. So it's
This is it.
it's like, what was it? One of them was like, I didn't realize, but one of my clients is like married to my cousin. Should I still see them? Should I tell my cousin? Which obviously not, but should I tell them that I know someone they know, and so I shouldn't see them, or should I just continue because I don't know my cousin that well anyway, and like stuff like that. What would you do? What in that scenario? Actually, what would you do if you're
Honesty.
Yeah.
I would be honest, but also my supervisor said you're just not allowed to see your immediate family, especially if you're working as
Well,
you're
but
just not supposed to.
not
but
quite
then-
immediate though. They only know your cousin.
So then, if you were to just, but see, I've had people approach me who've known me through other people,
Yeah.
and I'm like, would that connection stop you being honest with me? Would it make you? And if it would, I wouldn't see me.
Turn it back to the client then.
Yeah, I say if
That's
that
good.
connection I have with that person would stop you from would it stop you from disclosing certain information? If so, I would see another counsellor.
Yeah, I would probably do the same, to be honest. Like, to me, what's crucial is that you say, at least, that this is something that and like share it, and then it's up to them, really.
Yeah,
leave
that's it.
with them. Yeah,
Well,
that's-
confidentiality, you're not supposed to be like going around like saying, "Oh well, I saw your cousin." Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
not in
yeah.
a good way.
Aye,
Just have a hard time.
yeah. When you tell your client, you also tell them, I am not going to tell my cousin anything. I am bound by a contract, and if I do tell them anything, you can sue me and make £1 million.
I just don't go
Yes.
like. But that's where that is why I would promote other counsellors so much.
Yeah,
Why do it? If you've got such a choice, why go to somebody who there might be an obstacle?
aye, absolutely. Yeah, like start fresh, because it's important that you're able to be safe. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. No, I was just thinking that's why the people would say, no, I want to go to you because I know what you're like.
Yeah.
And they obviously trust if they've known me from somebody else or something. They were like, right, we trust and I kind of want what you're offering.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more about empowerment, goals, coaching a lot more. But that wasn't how I thought it would set out, but that's where it's ended up going, my practice. But what was I going to... I like that ethical dilemma. I think that would be that is what counselling's about. It's a lot of grey.
Yeah, it is. Maybe we should have an ethical dilemma at the end of every episode instead of the dream interp.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here I'll get the therapy today's one for you, and for the next one then I'll cut it out.
Cut it out.
Bring it round.
Bring it round.
We'll hash it out. Like it's pretty. That's some cool shit.
Do you think in terms of our mistake episode?
Aye.
Are you thinking it was an error of judgment? Are you happy with it so far? I like it.
What, a mistake to talk about mistakes?
Yeah.
No, not at all. I think I've still got loads more of them in the barrel. Like,
let's hear them.
Well, we wrote down mistakes in personal therapy, which we've gone over. I wrote down mistakes with therapy with clients, and I wrote down, times when I've talked too much, times when I've talked too little, times when I've used too much technique or too little technique. And then the last one was allowing certain things, which sounds a bit authoritarian.
Allowing.
Well, there's some things that I've sort of that I've let fly that I shouldn't, I think, or that I should. Not that I should stop it, but I should at least challenge it. So there's a few times now in my career when someone's kind of insisted on bringing someone else into the session. So, for example, someone quite young, their mum comes along, and I'm like, if that's the mum's idea, I'm so against that, because that's just a mum. Just like, how do you expect the client to say things to me that she wouldn't say to you if you're there?
Yes.
But and to me, it is also like just kind of nosiness a little bit. Like, I understand that you want to get into your son's head and stuff, but that's not really what this is for. It's for somebody else to get into your son's head. Well, not even that. It's for your son to feel comfortable enough to share something that's hard to share.
Your son to get into his own head?
That's exactly who it's for, yeah. But sometimes sometimes it wouldn't be the mum, or it would be the kid who says, oh, I'd like my mum to be here, or I think that's never actually happened to me, but that's an example in my head. But other times when someone would go, I'd really like my friend to be here, and to me that's done. Like, I don't think I've ever had a single good session in that context. It's happened to me about three times, and there's been other times where they've tried it, and what I've done is I've employed this little phrase, which is, I'll take care of your friend. It's okay. They'll be back in an hour, and and sometimes I will explain that, like, counselling is kind of about sharing things with somebody new, that it's about a relationship, and it's kind of hard to build a relationship with somebody else being there. Like, not in so many words, because that's quite blunt.
Yeah.
But
well, that's confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like a security measure.
Yeah. And I've let it fly sometimes, and it's never been I've never had good sessions with.
Well, it would only work if the counsel was for them as a friendship. Right.
If it was like a little bit of group therapy in a way.
If it was like that, but it's not like, I'll sit and watch while you open up. Or
like, they're like, some of them are very gracious as well, and they're like, it's okay, I'll not be listening. It's like, well, how great, how lovely of you, but then you can leave. Or they'll like have their phone or something.
You bring earplugs in.
Yeah. And like, that you can't really therapeutically use silence, because then they fill it in for the client. And it's like, therapeutic silence is for the client to think about something, or for them to sort of say something that they wouldn't have said if a conversation was flowing. It's sometimes therapeutic silence is to make someone feel a little bit awkward, so that they say what's on their mind.
Yes.
To break it, and you can't have that with another person in the room, because they feel so awkward. They feel the silence in for the client. So like, they'll go, I think what she's trying to say is, and you go, I you know what? I don't need to know what you think they're trying to say.
But you see, I would have child and parent sessions.
Aye.
But with the primary school aged, at least I would have the parent in the room.
Aye.
Because a lot of it's about empowering the parents to actually be able to speak about emotional issues and emotions and feelings.
Sure.
So I do actually think that's incredibly beneficial. But I have also had an experience of...
No, I just waved.
Okay. I have had the experience of a teenager, a mother bringing a teenager to a session.
Aye.
Now, the mother and I got on like a house. Like, the teenager was really struggling, but I just didn't think it wasn't going. The mother desperately wanted the teenager to open up to me.
Yeah.
She was like, but look, she's lovely, and just go to... But the teenager wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, of course.
But I think sometimes they think, well, we went to a counsellor and it didn't work.
Aye. when it's more like...
It wasn't me.
Yeah.
I might have been not the right. I might have been the good counsellor for the mother.
Sure. Well, like, I think it's also just that context. Obviously, that teenager... I think that teenager probably wanted to share something on their own, maybe, or...
She didn't want to share.
Well, yeah, they're dragged in.
She was struggling, and that's where we talked about psychological
Contact, yeah.
Contact.
Yeah.
I just don't think she was in a... She wasn't in the...
Not ready.
She wasn't ready.
I had a client once who the parents brought him along, and he wasn't hugely up for it, and somewhere along the line he said that he'd been like he was there because his parents had promised him something. Like,
yes.
I feel like if I say anything, it's too identifying, but he'd been bribed to be there with the likes of, say, a PS3 or 4 or something, you know, and he didn't want to come back. He said he would go to one session for like a video game or a console or something, and so, you know, he didn't come back because he'd sort of been put there prematurely.
But that tells you a few things. It tells you that the parents are desperate for the child they're worried about the child in some way. Sure. Possibly how they motivate the child is via, you know, giving them, like, God, I've done that, Jesus. Like, I've
of course, you
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you will, like, you know, it's one of the major parenting tactics for a lot of us.
Someone in their late teens, though, you know. Someone in their late teens.
Yes, but then it's like they desperately want him to go to counselling because they see something that concerns them.
Yeah.
They see behaviours that concerns them.
Yeah.
They see their child maybe suffering.
Yeah.
Or they're like, please go to a counsellor, and they want a magic trick. They want the wand.
They do. And like, well, yeah, this is it. I'd never say I don't get it. Like, I absolutely get it. Why someone would be absolutely concerned about their child, especially when it's behaviours they're not familiar with. And, you know, each generation of teenagers has a new unsettling thing that is scary to the previous generation. Like what we were talking about earlier with nude pictures and that not being an issue. Like as recently as 10 years ago, you know, like that's terrifying to me. Everything is documented now, and it can come up and bite you in the ass, you know, like people. Well, actually, here's a mistake thing I'm thinking of. Kevin Hart, this famous comedian, and it turns out in 2007 or something, he made some really homophobic tweets, and they were sort of dredged up, and and he wasn't allowed to host the Oscars or whatever. Which I don't, you know, fair enough. Like, don't host the Oscars. I don't think that's the issue to me. But it sort of goes. Do you not believe that he's changed?
Yes.
Do you think that he's still that guy?
Oh my God!
I mean,
this
like,
happens all the time, and it actually does my head in.
Yeah, like I mean, I think obviously it's a case by case thing, like, because there's some people who made some horrible tweets when they're 17 or 18, and you can bring them up now, and they're still shitty people.
Yeah, but like, that's where you ask, right? What happened there? How do you still feel like that? Do you still feel like that? Especially,
like, I think there was a time, probably ended around 2010, but between like the year 2000 and 2010, there was a whole culture of being edgy, quote unquote, and like saying the unsayable, and like, let's all say the M word and normalize it and all. But I don't really think it worked, and I think society's sort of gone, you know, maybe we shouldn't all just say the M word, and maybe we shouldn't call everyone on the internet who is better than us at a video game like a F word. I'm censoring myself, but you know, like big things like that. It's like there's gonna be old tweets. I know I said like the N word and the F word over the internet whenever I was a teenager because I was a little twat and I was, you know, playing video games and being a little dickhead, you know. But that's they would be. So is that a mistake? Like, or yeah? Like, so yes, but it's a mistake based on a different culture that doesn't exist anymore. That I am not that person anymore. Like, I'm just not. And I obviously learned, and I obviously grew, and I obviously know that there's a massive context beyond the word. There's a history of hurt and pain that's brought up every time it's said. And like, you know, should I still be treated like the way you would treat a 15-year-old now who says that? I don't think so, because I'm not that 15-year-old anymore. Yeah, but then with the 15-year-old, you'd be saying it now, right? So whenever I hear things from teenagers or anybody that I'm like, I completely don't agree with, I just go, right, tell me about it.
Right, why are you using that word?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
What's happening with you? Where's the belief? Because there'd be a belief somewhere. There may be, you know what I mean?
Can I be that 15-year-old for a minute?
Yeah.
Can we roleplay that?
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Okay, right,
So,
I'm getting in character.
roleplay. This
I'm
is
getting
the
in,
first
I'm getting in character.
Therapy Geeks.
Being a little spotty twat playing Half-Life 2
Right, so
3 in the morning.
So go for it. Oh, so
yeah,
you want me to-
okay. Well,
right.
I've been brought to you because we'll say my mum's heard me like calling people on the internet like an F word or an N word.
Okay.
And I'm talking the FA word, of course, not the FU word. You know, the big F word. And maybe saying that somebody needs to be burned at the stake or whatever it is.
You said,
horrible
you wrote that somebody needed to be burned at the stake.
Well, no, maybe I had a headset on and I'm shouting it. That isn't actually what I did, but that's what I'm picturing as the modern thing. You know, someone's playing a video game, they've got a headset on. Your parents overhear you saying all that.
Well, so your parents were worried because they heard you say that you think somebody should be burned at the stake while you were gaming.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so what was going on whenever you said you thought somebody should be... Can you remember what was going on?
Well, you know, that's how the voice is in my head. Well, you know, I don't actually think you should be burned at the stake. Like, I don't think you should be killed. Like, but
what happened in that moment? Did something happen?
I was just really frustrated. You know, I was just really annoyed.
Frustrated?
Yeah. Like, just kept getting. God, I'm showing my age. I kept getting shot every time I respawned, you know, it didn't really...
You kept getting shot?
Yeah, it didn't even really... I was annoyed because I was trying to play, but every time I started, I just immediately died, so I just called him that. Told him he should die in real life or whatever.
Oh, so you kept getting shot by the person who you thought...
Yeah, and I just wanted him to feel bad.
So when you look at it now, how do you feel about it?
Well, like... you know, I feel like it's probably pretty harmless, isn't it? Like, probably fine. Probably just ignores it. You know, that's what people say.
Is that what people say?
Well, maybe on the internet. I don't know. Yeah.
On the internet? Tell me more about people on the internet.
Well, you know, you just say things. You don't really mean them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you think so it'd be different if you were in front of the person?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, it's a broke character there. But I can certify that a 15-year-old me would not have had the balls to call anyone that. Yeah.
Well, can we go out of that? Can we
sure?
go? Yeah,
I feel like
right.
it was pretty constructive.
Well, I'm telling you, this is brilliant. You brought this up because this is one of the areas that comes up in the schools all the time.
Oh yeah,
that
hate
gaming is seen as one of the places where it's completely okay to display overt aggression and hostility,
racism and homophobia.
Because a lot of them would say that that's where they're releasing their stress, and it would be one of the places where everybody's at it, so we just jump in.
Yeah.
So you can see how parents would be like, my otherwise, like say Jimmy, sits at the table, talks to Scudney and his GCSE A-star GCSE chemistry star pupil.
Yeah.
He's there on the internet telling people they should be burned at the stake.
Yeah,
it's going to be shocking.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, who is he?
Sure.
I'll tell you what, Jimmy's stressed.
Yeah.
Jimmy's going for stress relief. He's taking out his aggression.
Yeah.
He's taking out his thing. He's expressing himself. He's expressing an aspect of his personality that is completely... He's not happy showing at school. He's not going to because he's A-star pupil or whatever.
Yeah.
He's not going to show it to mummy and daddy.
Aye. In 10 years, right, Jimmy's about to host the Oscars. Someone pulls up a recording of him saying all that shit, right?
The Oscars can kiss my arse.
Yeah, I still think the
Oscars, like, talk about hypocrisy.
He probably still shouldn't host the Oscars because it's just come out. You know, people need a bit of time to process it. But I don't think...
Well, the Oscars is so... That's hypocrisy. Look at how racist that institution has been. Look at how historically they have been incredibly sexist, incredibly... And there they are going, oh, you put up a tweet we didn't like from like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
You're out. And I'd be like this here to Kevin Hart. That's a blessing in disguise. Because the Oscars is probably another institution that needs to have a long, hard look at itself.
Oh yeah. There wasn't that hashtag. I don't know if it's still going this year, but the dogs are back. By the way, I'm not that excited about Oscars racism. But wasn't there like that Oscars so white thing? Because everything that was nominated was like just like beige as shit. everyone was white in it,
Yeah, but that's it. But it's like sometimes, the things. There's the cats in too. This is
great.
This
We've got the whole parade.
But we've nearly been an hour.
Aye.
So mistakes. So let's just. Do you want to
conclude?
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Well, I'll leave with. I've got a quote.
Sorry, the dog's
here's a wee quote maybe to end her with.
Aye.
Oh no! Don't you go in there.
Was this a mistake letting the animals in?
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like we could grow. And
Is that?
I think
back?
we cut for a second there because the cat hit the stop recording button just as we were talking about whether or not it was a mistake to let the animals in. I feel like the cat spoke for itself.
So we're
it?
trying to end this because this is just an example. Another day in the Taylor house. So remember that life's greatest lessons are usually learned at the worst times and from the worst mistakes.
Oh, that's true, isn't it? Like, I feel like every time I've grown in my life, it has been from a mistake. I've spoken in the past. God damn. Sorry. Juno's trying to make me better, but she's got these really sharp claws.
Oh, no, she might need them cut again.
I think she needs a wee trim. I've spoken in the past podcast about a car crash I was in, and to be honest, I think learning from that was probably the a point of growth, and the way people around you deal with it is so important. So I think in that case everyone was incredibly understanding and incredibly kind considering what had happened. Other times I'm thinking of minor mistakes when someone was maybe like irritated or disappointed, and I think they were still points of growth for me because the person was honest to me about their irritation and disappointment rather than just a sort of like, you dickhead. It was more like, oh, you didn't do this thing and actually that really annoyed me and I found it quite hard to deal with. Could you in the future do your best with that? And I ended up doing my best, and that there was something about their honesty that got down all the walls and defenses that come up when you're defending yourself, and just made me go, yeah, you're right, that wasn't great.
Yeah, but see, I've just thought something I do, and these lessons keep coming back to me. I give people many chances. I give people a lot of chances, hoping, maybe they're different, or maybe it's different this time, and it keeps coming back because I think a lot of the time I'm trying to be controlled or maybe manipulated, and I'm like, all right, I keep, and I would be somebody who would give people a lot, but then I think I do.
Yeah.
But then when I'm done, like I'm kind of like, right, okay, that's enough.
I think it's always important to let people know when you're cutting them slack too. I think that's my mistake, is that if I'm going easy on someone, like you have to let them know that you're going easy on them. Like that got to me. I'm gonna be okay with this because I'm trying to be, but don't do that again. Rather than, I think if I'm if I'm being lenient on someone, I don't let them know I'm being lenient, and they just think that's normal, so they can do it again.
But this is this. But then I think for some people it's weird whenever I finally have had enough.
Aye,
because they're like, but she's always been like giving chance to, and then I go boom.
Yeah, they're surprised.
Like, yes, they are surprised because
they go to the victim position as well. Like, oh, you're the bully now.
Yeah, you're but actually I would just be like, what, victim. It's not helpful. But they're mistakes. But they're life lessons that I hopefully will stop making them. But they come in different guises.
Yeah.
The same lesson.
Yeah.
The same mistake might come in a slight variation.
Yeah.
Might come. I keep giving a chance. Keep giving the one part. I'm thinking for me, it'll be a lot of family members. Keep giving chances and things like that there, and then I'm like, no, because it's the same thing, but it just looks slightly different.
Yeah,
it's control.
Yeah, it's a trick. It's an illusion.
But it's like, and that's another thing, and I want to leave you. Well, I don't know if you want to, but it's like you can love people and not have them in your life.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
You can love them very, very much and still not take their crap.
Yes. And now, listener, you're about to love us but not have us in your life. For we have reached the end of this podcast for today.
So do we do the therapy, which is...
Oh, yes, the Therapy Geeks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Therapy Geeks. Find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Deezer, Listen Notes, Stitcher, Podcast Index, and Buzzsprout. give us a like or a follow or a subscription, whatever your podcast app allows. Thanks for listening.